Hello, everybody. My name is Mr. Tandy at Tandy IT, Module 9, Cisco Intro to Networks. So before we get started, just out of curiosity, use your ears for a quick second and tell me what the sound sounds like. I'm going to play it again for you. And one more time. So what that sound is, typically what happens when somebody knocks on the door, right, at your house. Somebody were to knock on your door, and hopefully you don't answer the door unless you know who it is. But if it's somebody you may not know, you answer the door, and you typically go, "How can I help you?" Whoever's at the door says, "Yes, I am looking for such and such," and you say, "Nope, that person is not here. You need to get to stepping." Then whoever's at the door says, "Okay, you know what? Can you please tell such and such I came by?" I came by. So essentially what that is ARP resolution, and that's what we're going to cover today. So whenever you hear this sound, I want you to think of ARP, okay? Think of ARP. It'll make more sense a little bit later as we get going here. So welcome. Let's get going here. So in this module, we're going to explain how ARP and ND communications on the network, MAC and IP addresses, okay? Compare the roles of MAC addresses to IP addresses. We're going to describe the purpose of ARP, which stands for Address Resolution Protocol. And then we're going to look at neighbor discovery, IP version 6. MAC and IP addresses. Here we go. There are two primary addresses assigned to devices on Ethernet local area network. We have layer 2 and a layer 3. Physical address, the MAC address. Remember, that's that thumbprint. Okay, that's that physical thumbprint of a device. And when I say physical thumbprint, it is static. You can't change it. It's from the manufacturer. I could pick up a computer, or I could pick up that NIC if it's built into the motherboard and go all the way across the country. That MAC address is going to stay the same. Layer 3, logical addresses, that's IP addresses, used to send the packet from the source devices to the destination device. Layer 2 addresses are used to deliver frames from one NIC to another NIC. Very important, kind of like a switch, right? One NIC to another NIC. If the destination IP address is on the same network, the destination MAC addresses will be that of the same destination device, okay? Destination on a remote. Sometimes we do like to do things remotely. ARP is used by IP version 4 associated with IP version 4 addresses on the device with the MAC addresses on the device NIC. IP version 6 is used by IP version 6 to associate the IP version 6 addresses of a device with MAC addresses on the device network, okay? All right, we're going to move on here. Let's take a look at ARP. A device uses ARP, or Address Resolution Protocol, to determine the destination MAC address of a local device when it knows its IP version 4 address. ARP provides two basic functions. Okay, resolves IP version 4 addresses to MAC addresses, maintaining ARP table of IP version 4 MAC address mapping. So let's take a look at this diagram here. This IP address 192.168.1.5, which is a subnet of 24, which is a WAC 24. I want you to email me what that is in dotted decimal form. Email me what that WAC 24 is in dotted decimal. That's subnet mask. I need to send information to 192.168.1.7, but I only have the IP address. I don't know the MAC address of the device that has that IP. Let's take a look. We're going to look at that here shortly. We're going to do a packet tracer on that. Just remember that. Also, keep this in the back of your head. All right, going back to the knocking. All right, to send a frame, a device will search its ARP table for destination IP version 4 address and corresponding MAC address. If the packet destination IP4 address is on the same network, the device will search the ARP table for the destination IP version 4 address. So essentially, it's like, this is the best way I can describe it. Let's see, as far as that ARP table is concerned. Think of Amazon. Think of UPS. Think of a brand new house that were to get built. If a package were to come into that building and need to go out to that brand new house, there may not be any record. So the facility may say, "Hey, where is this place at? Where can I find it?" They'll look at it on Google Maps, whatever. They'll do a search, they'll find it, and then they'll update their own records on how to get there. So any packages or anything like that needs to go out to that network or to that house area will definitely be updated because they'll have a sheet on it. Excuse me. If the destination IP version 4 address is on a different network, the device will search for the ARP table for the IP version 4 for the default gateway. Remember, if it's not a network, it sends it out to default gateway. If the device locates the IP version 4 address, its corresponding MAC address is used as a destination MAC address in a frame. If there is no ARP table entry found, then the device sends a ARP request. So again, if there is no ARP table, if there's nothing in there, it's going to send out that request. That's the idea that I just explained to you about the Amazon store or the UPS looking for a new housing development. If it's not found there, they're going to send out a request. Hey, how can I find this place? Where do I need to go to get there? How do I get there? Entries in the ARP table are not permanent and are removed when the ARP cache timer expires after specific periods of time. Okay. The duration of ARP cache timer differs depending on the operating system. ARP table entries can also be removed manually by the administrator. So essentially, it keeps everything nice and fresh, right? We don't want to you don't want to have a whole bunch of that stuff in there. We got to keep everything fresh as possible. All right. So, and here I'm going to show you how this works. Let me open up a packet tracer here, and we're going to get into these different commands in the router and all that stuff. So before we do that, let's get packet tracer open up here. Okay, and I am going to remove myself here so you can see this full screen. All right. Now to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add just two PCs, PC2, and then here's PC3. I want to do that. Okay, so I got two PCs. I'm going to add a intermediary device, aka a switch. Okay, aka switch. And then I'm going to take my cable here. I'm not going to cheat and use the lightning bolt. I'm going to use the straight through cable and hook it up to the switch. And then I'm going to take this other side here, pass Ethernet, and hook that up to the switch as well. Okay. So now that I have that, let me see if I can blow this up just a little bit. There you go. Okay, I think you can see it now. All right. So continuing here. Need to configure my IP. I need to configure the IP addresses on these end devices here. So I'm just going to go into here. Desktop IP configuration. I'm just going to give this a 192.168.1.10. Should populate the subnet mask. Take that off there for a quick second. Okay. That's going to populate the subnet mask. And then I'm going to go into this machine here. Go to desktop. IP version 4 here. And then I'm going to go 192.168.1.20. So make this was a 10 and this one's a 20. All right. So we got those two configured. Now, I want to show you a couple items here because it does say, we want to examine the ARP tables. So let's look at the ARP table because I just hooked this computer up. Let's go to command prompt. I'm going to type in ARP-A and see what we have. So it says we have no ARP entries found. Okay, so there's nothing here for this computer. I'm going to ping that to the top here so you can see that. Put that there. Let's go to PC3. Let's replicate the same command. ARP -A. Also, again, no entries found. Now, just to add a little more context, I'm actually going to go into the switch. And I'm going to go in here. I'm going to enable, and I'm going to go show. I'm in caps, sorry. Show MAC address table. And as you can see here, there is nothing listed in the MAC address table. So this is fairly new, right? This is a brand new network, okay? Nothing's here. Nothing's here. Okay. So you see that I have the switch, did the show MAC address table. There's nothing there. Grabbed one of the PCs. No ARP table there. Uh-oh. I think I lost one of them here. And then, let's see here. This is PC2. Let's get PC3. And here's PC3. Put this to the top. And there's no ARP table there as well. Okay? So we have 3 devices, no ARP tables at all. Everything's not on here, right? Okay, so I'm going to close these down. I'm going to put up my simulation mode here. So what I'm going to do, let's see if we can develop some traffic here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into PC2, okay, and just to make sure I have the right computer, okay, this is the .10. So I'm going to ping this machine here. I'm going to ping the computer. So let's see what we get here. I am going to go ping, which is that Marco Polo, 192.168.1.20. So let's turn simulation mode on. Uh-oh, I lost the computer. Okay. Let's turn simulation mode on. And let's see what happens. Okay, here we go. So let's advance this. So we have our packet ready to go here. I'm going to press forward. There goes the initial packet to the switch. Remember, if there's nothing on, if there's no ARP table, even on the switch, is what is it going to do? It's going to essentially send it out again, right? So there goes there. It's hitting my computer. It's hitting the PC3 computer, which is on the .20. Goes back to the switch and says, "Hey, I just received this information. Please let PC2 know that I am here." And there you go. So let's do it again. As you can see, those Marco Polos are going. There's time to live. And so on. There it goes. All right. So let's stop the simulation. Now remember, there we go. Okay, so we had 4 packets sent. None of them were lost, which is very good. Now remember, when we looked at these machines, there was nothing on the ARP tables. Like there was no record. No record at all. So let's look at PC2 now. Let's do ARP-A. Oh, now we do have something. It recorded a 192.168.1.20 and with a MAC address. This is kind of like a Cisco MAC address. 00A, 48, all that good stuff. Okay, cool. So let's ping that there. Keep that to the top there. Let's go into PC3 and let's do the same thing. We are going to do ARP-A and voila, there we go. Now we have the MAC address of our IP address 192.168.1.10. There it is, .10. So that MAC address is there. And we have one more device to take a look at. Let's take a look at our switch. Let's take a look at our switch. And as you can see here before, we noticed that there was nothing here. So I'm just going to hit the up arrow key, show MAC table, and there you go. Now we have a MAC table right here. We have our MAC tables, which is associated with the ports, which because it's Ethernet. Okay. So our MAC address table has now been populated with these not with IP addresses, with these MAC addresses. So just to really be sure, we're just going to go down a little bit deeper just to make sure we see everything. I'm just going to do ipconfig all. On PC3, as you can see here, we have 000A, 41A4, DE05, and that looks exactly like that. So that's this machine here. This is the resolution of the MAC address here with this IP address, as we can see here in this MAC table. And then let's go over here. Let's do the same thing here. Let's go ipconfig/all. See if we have the same thing, and then yes, here's the other part of that MAC table, right? In the MAC table, here's a physical address. So it does record all of the information there. All right, continuing here. ARP requests are received and processed by every device on the local network. Excessive ARP broadcasts can cause some reduction in performance. Interesting. ARP replies can be spoofed by a threat actor to perform a ARP poisoning attack. Enterprise level switches include mitigation techniques to protect against ARPs. Yes, we got to definitely make sure. I call unethical hackers, I call them buttheads. Got to make sure these guys can't get in there to try to spoof things up, right? We don't want them to be able to get in there to try to act like they're somebody else. This is one of the reasons why, we kind of get into this real quick, and I'll just kind of share some ideas here. This is one of the reasons why at a Starbucks, I tell my students all the time, especially at the high school level, everybody in general, don't use an open network at a Starbucks. Just don't. Because you get people like this that'll sit there on open network, and all they'll need to do pretty much is to, if they attach themselves to the network, they log onto the network, they'll do a ARP-A. And we know what that command does. It resolves the MAC addresses to the IP addresses that are in the room. So at least the MAC addresses gives them the physical part of it so they can see which computers are in that area, okay? And that it gives them a place to start, all right? It gives them a place to start. That's why I always tell people don't do it, and there's some Linux commands, like some nmap, stuff like that. You can do some port scans, things of that nature. That's why I say stay away from open networks as much as possible. Continue. Okay, so we just did that there. All right, IP version 6 neighbor discovery. IP version 6 discovery protocols, address resolution, router discovery, redirection services, version 6 solicitation, okay? Messages are used by the device-to-device messaging, such as address resolution, router solicitation. So the router gives out the information, very important. The router advertised messages are used to message between devices and routers for router discovery. Redirect messages are used by the router for the next hop selection. So as you can see in this graphic, okay, this is a neighbor solicitation message. It says, hey, whoever has this IP version 6 address, send me your MAC address. Okay, this is PC1. And the other PC says, hi, MAC address. I'm sorry, IP version 6. Okay. I am this IP version 6, and my MAC address is here. That's a neighbor solicitation. IP version 6 uses ND to resolve the MAC addresses on a known IP version 6 address. All right, that's going to conclude Module 9. I will see you on the next video.